Hello, welcome to 10 at 10. My name is Michael Ramage. I'm the director of the Cyber Education and Research Center here at Murray State University, and welcome back to 10 at 10. 10 at 10 is brought to you through a partnership between Murray State University, Grow West, the Technology Council of West Kentucky, KY Innovation, and our local partner, Sprocket Innovation in Paducah, and the Kentucky Innovation Station in Madisonville. This week, I want to talk about something that is obviously in the news and on everybody's minds. But I want to talk about the Ukraine Russia conflict that's going on and what the impact is to our world of cybersecurity. And I want to talk about it in a slightly different way than what you're hearing about it on the news. And let me say that the reason I want to talk about it today is that I am getting so many questions about that. There is the assumption that we're going to be attacked by Russia very, very soon from a cyber attack. If that is true, then what does that mean for me? What does it mean for my family? What does it mean for my business? And so I want to talk about that today. I want to spend a little bit of time, and I want to look at this in a slightly a couple of different perspectives. The Russia-Ukraine impact, we are seeing it in cybersecurity. Obviously, we're seeing it at the gas pumps. We're seeing it on the news. We're seeing it in a lot of areas. And just to be clear, what's going on over there is horrible. The pictures that you see, the stories that you hear are just horrible, and my heart breaks for the Ukrainian people. And there's so much that people are trying to do for them. Are we doing enough? Probably not, honestly, but it is just so overwhelming what's going on over there. I am not going to talk about all of that aspect. I mean, there's a geopolitical discussion that could be had that is outside the scope of what we do on 10 at 10, that could certainly be had. But what I want to talk about today is your company going to get hacked? Is your company going to get attacked by Russians because of our support of Ukraine? And I want to talk through that. So I'm going to talk about this in a couple of different perspectives. First of all, I want to talk about the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA. It is a federal group that kind of manages cybersecurity for our government. And they'll issue warnings, they'll issue alerts when there is something to issue a warning or an alert about. And a few weeks ago, they did issue a Shields Up alert. Shields Up, it basically it says a lot of different things, but it says that Russia's invasion of Ukraine could impact organizations both within and beyond the region, to include the U.S. homeland. Every organization, large and small, must be prepared to respond to disruptive cyber activity. All right. So what CISA, what their Shields Up warning says is to be prepared. Be prepared for your organization to have a security breach, for your organization to be the victim of cyber activity. Actually, the victim of disruptive cyber activity. And their wording is important here. So, should you be alert? Sure. So, if you've heard me talk about different things in the past, whether it's identity theft or being the victim of a data breach, you've heard me talk, or ransomware. Even I think we talked about that last week. You've heard me say something along the same lines. Russia, by and large, doesn't care about your small business. Your small business, your family, Russia really doesn't care about. Unless you're somebody famous, unless you're actively spreading propaganda against Russia, unless your small business is creating weapons to support Ukraine, Russia probably doesn't care about you. So the odds of your organization being the target of a cybersecurity attack from Russia may be fairly low. That doesn't mean that you don't need to be, and read the words again, prepared to respond to disruptive cyber activity. So now what does that actually mean? So in our country, our Department of Homeland Security has identified critical infrastructure. I think there's 16. I got to count that again, but I believe there's about 16 sectors that they've identified. Communications is one, chemical, commercial facilities, energy, food, agriculture, government facilities, financial, IT's one, healthcare, transportation, water, defense. These are dams that obviously would impact our region. These are critical infrastructure areas. Now, if you're employed and you're working for one of these critical infrastructure areas, then certainly you're going to be at a heightened state of alert. You've probably been at a heightened state of alert for some time, but certainly those areas are going to be they're critical to our nation. We got to have electricity. We've got to have water. We've got to have communications. We've got to have transportation. So all of those areas, there are some additional concerns and alerts in those areas. If Russia was going to target something in our country, it would probably be one of those critical infrastructure areas. Electricity is an obvious target. Dams would probably be an obvious target. Um, those are the ones that are likely to be targeted directly. Now, here's the catch. We've had this mutual assured destruction in nuclear weapons over the last, since the Cold War with Russia. We probably have that same thing going on right now with cyber attacks. I listened to a discussion earlier in the week on this topic, and what the belief is that we have the ability to take down at least some aspect of Russia's electrical grid. They probably have the ability to take down some of our electrical grid. But they know that if they do that, then we'll do that. We know if we do that, they'll do that. So we're probably not going to do that unless it is the last resort. Either way, just because if we really have a full on cyber war with another country, particularly with Russia, um, it's going to hurt us both, and they know that. Now, will Russia get so desperate that they want to do something? It's possible for sure. So, so keep that in mind. That when we're talking about this, if there was a sector that was going to be targeted, it would probably be one of these critical infrastructure sectors. With that said, that doesn't mean we're not seeing increased cybersecurity activity. That doesn't mean that ransomware attacks aren't increasing, because they are. That doesn't mean that a blanket social engineering through email attack, a phishing email attack, doesn't happen to all of us, because it probably will and maybe already has. So, what that means is that while we're not going to be likely not the victim of a direct attack, these indirect breaches are certainly likely to happen. These indirect attacks through ransomware and other measures that we've already been seeing over the last few years, um, we're going to see those increase and target maybe US based assets or US based organizations even more. All that is likely to happen. So you need to be prepared for that. You need to take steps to reduce the likelihood of a damaging intrusion. You need to take the steps to make sure that you can detect that intrusion. You need to take steps so that you know how to respond if that intrusion, and make your organization more resilient against that potential intrusion. All of those things have been true and will continue to be true. And with all of this heightened state of alert, That is the reason that CISA issued the Shields Up warning, is that we need to be ready for all of those things. So, some of the things that they put in there, Shields Up recommendations, were steps that you can take to protect yourself and your family. Stop me if these sound familiar. Implement multi-factor authentication on all your accounts that will allow it. Update your software. Turn on automatic update so you don't even have to think about it. Think before you click. Use strong passwords. All these things we've talked about on 10 at 10 before. All these things that any cybersecurity expert is going to tell you to do, because these are the basic things that we need to do to protect ourselves, our families, and our organizations. So, at a very bare minimum, you need to be doing these 4 things. There's probably additional things that you need to be doing. If you go to CISA.gov, they have a wealth of information that you can learn about. They have a wealth of information that you can explore, and I strongly recommend that you do that. So let me wrap up by saying this again. Um, is your organization likely to be targeted in a cybersecurity attack from Russia? Probably not, unless you're one of those critical infrastructure sectors. It's probably not going to be directly targeted. But that doesn't mean there's not increased activity. That doesn't mean that you're not going to be on the receiving end of an attack, because we are seeing increased activity. Is it from the Russian government directly? Probably not. Is it from Russian supported cyber criminals? Absolutely. And so we need to be prepared for those things. We need to be prepared to make sure that if our company gets attacked, that we can respond as quickly as we can. We can reduce the impact, and that we're ready to move forward. I went a little bit long today, but I wanted to make sure we talked about that, because you're hearing a lot about that. The guidance may actually change something different next week, but that's where the guidance is right now. So be on alert. Shields up. Make sure you're ready to protect your organization and yourself, and stay safe in cyberspace. I appreciate you joining us this week on 10 at 10. If you have questions, let me know. Send me an email, send me a note, and we'll try to clarify something if I said something that was confusing today, or explained a topic in a little more detail next week. So anyway, thank you for joining us, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you. Bye.